So we're talking about building responsive lists. So let me tell you first a story of what I did when I got started, and I kind of did this a little bit on accident, okay? And it wasn't really that scientific, and then I'm going to lead into how to do it in a more scientific way, and I've got a bonus for those of you who buy the course and the coaching, where we're actually going to give you a whole structure map of how to build this for any business that's going to totally blow you away. So let me go back over here and show you what I did, okay? So when I got started, all right, I had to do things in a different way. I'd been homeless, I'd been living in a van, I'd been in network marketing for like 7 years, all right? And I had been pitching to everyone. I didn't know about target marketing because they never train you on it in the audios, right? The audios are just story after story after story. But what I realized later when I learned about target marketing is listening to all those audios taught me who is it that really buys these products and stays in for a long time, because there's stories about who these people were. So all this knowledge that I got, right, this whole time was absolutely invaluable once I actually learned the skills to actually go and apply. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to succeed so quick, was because of my background. So when I got started, I had no money, I had no list, I didn't have a way of building a list fast, right, other than free stuff. And here's what I did. I went online, okay, and I started up a blog, and I started building a list through doing SEO and, you know, attracting leads through blogging and stuff like that. Something we teach a lot, but we're not really covering today, right? So I started building a list through blogging because it was free and I didn't have to spend money on paid ads. And I started, like, you know, building this list. And I had this list that started coming in. I was getting, you know, at first it was like 5 to 10 leads a day. And I was like, I got to send something to them, right? So what I did is I went online and I started just looking at random people's websites that made a lot of money selling stuff. And actually, I don't think I've ever told this story, but what I did, I was actually in this system, and I was looking online, and I saw Jonathan Budd. Some of you guys know them. He's one of my great friends, actually. I love Jonathan. And Jonathan had on his blog, he had a little capture, you know, form that said, free 8-day boot camp on how to become like an MLM recruiting master or something. I actually can't remember what he said it was for, but it was like free 8-day boot camp, right? Now I actually never watched his boot camp, but what I did was I went back on my blog and I put a little thing that said free 8-day boot camp, right? Now I didn't have one, right? But I needed a way to capture leads, right? And I needed something to give them, and I was just looking and saying, you know, what are people doing, right? So I had this free boot camp, right? And then here's literally what I did. Right, over the course of like the next 45 days, as I was learning what to do, I put together a free training boot camp teaching people in 8 videos literally exactly what I was doing step by step as I was learning it, right? So I actually put together these videos as I was learning what I was doing, right, before I even had anything delivered. Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do. That's just what I did, okay? And here's what I did, all right? So I go out there in this boot camp, and I start learning about blogging, and I start learning about, you know, funded proposals and attractive marketing. So the first video that I had was I was like, why you need a funded proposal to build your business and how to recruit through those, because I just went through a training on it, right? So I explained to them how to do that, and then this video, what did it do? This video sold them the funded proposal that I was using, right? And then I was like, well, the next thing you need to build your business is, you know, you need a blog. And here's actually how to generate leads blogging. And I actually demonstrated how to get leads blogging in the next video. So I was like, here's how to get leads blogging, right? And I actually demonstrated, and I showed people what I was doing in this video. It was a tutorial video, and I was like, well, if you're going to have a blog, you know, you need blogging hosting, and this isn't going to work, of course, unless you have the funded proposal. So, you know, mine's a little sloppy. I was like, so here's, you know, you want to buy your video hosting, and then you want to go buy this funded proposal. You need to buy it, right? And then I had this third video, and I come up along, and I was like, so here's how to, you know, sell your opportunity, because you want to be able to sell your opportunity to, you know, the funded proposal. So when people come in and they buy this, you know, funded proposal, you got to be able to get on the phone with them. Here's how to sell your opportunity. So I had this little video. This is kind of as I was learning how to do this, I was just kind of acting at the same time, right? But I was like, here's how to do it, and here's an example of it, and here's actually, I'm going to show you, I want to show you guys how I'm doing this. So what I'm actually doing is I'm going to present my opportunity to you, and I want you to watch it even if you're not interested. The reason I want you to watch the presentation is to see how you should really be selling your opportunity. So I kind of suckered them into watching my opportunity based on they watched me sell mine, and then they'd learn how to sell theirs, but then I'd get them, right? So then I'd do that, but then I'd, you know, if they bought that, I'd be like, well, now you also need to, you know, blog if you haven't got that. And by the way, if you have a blog, you're doing that, you need to learn how to capture leads, right? And you need to learn how to sell to your leads. And to do that, you need an autoresponder. So I was like, you need an Aweber account. So here's a link. to get your Aweber account, right? And so I just kind of like started putting these videos together, explaining what I was doing, right? But I was really good at selling too. We're going to talk about that in a bit. I just was explaining what I was doing, what tools I was using, and how I was doing it step by step, completely for free. Like I was giving away the farm for free. I could have sold that 8-day boot camp for a couple $100, but I didn't know that, of course, when I was new. I just was giving it away for free because I was like, well, I'm going to help people, right? But here's what happened, is this series, right, it solved all of the problems that I had had over the last 7 years. Like my goal in that series, it was like, I want to, when I go out in the marketplace, teach people that things that if I was taught them 7 years ago, I would have skipped over that 7 years, right? So people went through that series, and I put it together for free. I put tons of thought into it. Of course, I had all day because I was homeless, right? And I put that series together, and people would go through, and they'd be like, holy crap, right? That's why I'm not recruiting. Like, they'd be like, shoot. That's why I'm not able to capture leads. I don't have an autoresponder. So I was explaining to people step by step, here's how to get leads, and I was like, oh, now here's how to do, content marketing. So I had a little section on content marketing, and I had a little tool I was selling. It was like some article submitter thing that would never work in 2014, but it worked really great in 2010 or 2009, right? Well, this little article submitter thing, I ended up making like $150,000 selling this little tool, right? It was just ridiculous, what was happening. So I made this series, okay, and it was 8 videos long, and the whole thing was designed to do one thing. It was designed to teach people what to do who were going to join my team later in the process of selling them and making money while I was leading them down a path to get them to join me, all right? It worked unbelievably well. What happened from this is because the leads that I was getting were really high quality because they were coming from, SEO and content marketing, when people came into this list, I was actually recruiting about 1 in 8 to 1 in 10 leads that I was getting coming into my list for like a $500 buy-in. Now that's not normal. All right. Now I'm going to explain the next section of how I did that in the next module when I talk about funded proposals and how to use them, because there's a whole art to recruiting from small lists. All right. Most people who recruit a lot, they have huge lists. Well, I was recruiting more than most people with huge lists with a really tiny list. Okay, and I was doing it by following this process. But this is essentially what that video series was, all right? And this is essentially what I had built for myself when I started. I kept doing this for about, actually until I started